Hello, I'm Henry Keane. This is News Pulse at UATV. Welcome to the show. Today in the episode, 350 strikes, Ukraine's 2026 long-range drone campaign on occupied by Russia territories. Iran hits the United States AWACS plane, and Russia's likely to be behind the intel for this to happen. Zelenskyy openly says Trump's plan to end war in Ukraine has the key flaw. Ukrainian Armed Forces have conducted as much as 350 long-range drone strikes across Russian-occupied territories since 2026. A detailed strike map was published by French military OSINT analyst Clément Molin. The targets include 19 strikes on air defense systems, 25 strikes on radar stations, 21 strikes on aircraft, and 9 strikes on missile and rocket artillery launchers. There also were 260 strikes on warehouses, antennas, and transformers. Ukraine is concentrating its strikes on 3 main operational directions: Crimea, southern Zaporizhzhia, and Donetsk region. The night of March 31st was marked by a new wave of effective strikes on the Russian ports of Ust-Luga and Primorsk. Attacks on Russian oil infrastructure have become the most serious threat to the aggressor country's economy since the beginning of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, reports the Telegraph media. More about impact of Ukrainian long-range sanctions. Next story for you.
Ukraine's defense forces continue striking oil infrastructure targets in the aggressor state. Over the past week, Ukraine attacked Russia's key Baltic port of Ust-Luga twice. Significant volumes of crude oil and petroleum products are exported from there, including via vessels from the so-called Shadow Fleet. The target is entirely legitimate, the security service of Ukraine said, because energy exports enable the aggressor to finance its military-industrial complex and continue the war.
The Security Service of Ukraine, together with the Defense Forces, is continuing its systematic work to reduce the enemy's financial and logistical capabilities. All oil facilities are effectively part of Russia's military-industrial complex and provide revenue to the Russian budget that is then used for the war against Ukraine. Therefore, special operations aimed at countering this will continue. Russia will pay a high price for its aggression. Yevgeny Kamara, acting head of the Security Service of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The Baltic region has turned from a safe hub into a high-risk zone for Russia, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense said. On the night of March 25th, Ukraine's defense forces struck the Vyborg shipyard. A day later, they hit a primary oil refining unit and 2 large storage tanks at the Kynef oil refinery in the city of Kirishi. Its capacity is about 21 million tons of oil per year, more than 6% of Russia's total refining volume. After the attack, Kirishneftyorg Syntez completely halted operations. Ukraine's defense forces also struck oil-loading infrastructure and oil storage facilities at the Transneft terminal in the port of Primorsk. These long-range sanctions are systematically draining the aggressor's resources.
Ukraine's defense forces' combined strikes on oil infrastructure in Russia's Leningrad region have 3 key vectors of impact. Economic: blocking oil and petroleum product exports through the Baltic deprives the Russian budget of billions of dollars that were directly converted into missiles and shells. Logistical: it creates fuel shortages for Russian troop groupings. Technological: successful attacks at distances of more than 900 kilometers prove that Russian air defenses are incapable of protecting critical facilities even deep in the rear. From a publication on the website of Ukraine's Ministry of Defense.
An unprecedented number of drones covered near-record distances, bypassed layers of air defense, and dealt a crippling blow to some of Russia's most important facilities, the Telegraph writes. According to analysts, these attacks have become a serious challenge for the Kremlin, casting doubt on Russia's very ability to export oil, the core of its economy. Experts say the scale of the strikes, their focus, and their timing have produced the most powerful effect seen in the past 4 years.
In Russia, all of this is happening very deep inland. They may still be able to pump oil for now, but at some point it will turn out there is nowhere to send it, nowhere to store it, because we are seeing strikes on ports and on oil refineries as well. So even if oil is still being extracted, there is simply nowhere for it to go. Sooner or later, that will lead to a situation where they will have to shut down the wells themselves. And when you shut down a well, when you seal it, in theory, it can only be reopened, and only at a very high cost. Economically, it is no longer viable to reopen a well that has already been sealed.
Ukraine has responded to Russia's attacks on energy infrastructure, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said. He added that new UAVs and missile drones are now being technically upgraded for future operations. Meanwhile, Russia has introduced a full ban on petrol exports from April 1st, 2026, for all market participants. According to Russian media reports, the moratorium will remain in force at least until July 31st. Andriy Dmitrenko for Freedom TV.
It always is amazing to watch when the shoe fits exactly. One wears it without having the slightest understanding, actually, how guilty one looks in the same charges one tries to blame on others. Iran's permanent representative to UN, Ahmed Sayed Iravani, accused Ukraine of active participation in military aggression against the Islamic Republic.
Sending Ukrainian specialists to the region constitutes active participation in military aggression against Iran. Ukraine is providing operational and technical assistance that directly contributes to the use of force and acts of aggression against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Islamic Republic of Iran. By doing so, Ukraine incurs international responsibility under international law for aiding or assisting in the commission of an internationally wrongful act. Amir Saeed Iravani, permanent representative of Iran to the United Nations.
But maybe one just does not know how to tell lies from truth in even such an absolutely obvious case, like Iranian Shahed drones flying Ukrainian skies and killing us in Ukraine every day for 4 years in a row. Well, in this case, one might want to use a good piece of advice.
How to know whether an Iranian regime's representative is lying? If his lips move, he is. Since 2022, Iran has supplied Russia with nearly 60,000 drones, which Russia uses to attack Ukraine. At the same time, no Ukrainian drone has ever struck Iranian territory. This liar should have been long gone together with his regime. Georgy Tihi, spokesperson for Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Well, amen to that. The question of who is actually your ally will most likely cost you a win or lose in a war. American early warning and control aircraft, AWACS, was heavily damaged in an Iranian attack on an airbase in Saudi Arabia. Iran's strike on the Prince Sultan airbase on Friday damaged the Boeing E-3 Sentry, an airborne warning and control system plane that uses advanced radar to track aircraft and missiles from hundreds of kilometers away, providing commanders with a real-time picture of the battlefield from the air. In an interview with NBC on Saturday, President Zelenskyy said that satellite images taken by Russia of the Prince Sultan airbase were shared with Iran just days prior to the attack. The president of Ukraine shared with NBC a summary of the daily presidential briefings he received from Ukraine's spy agencies, which proved that Russia's satellites took images of their base on March 20th, March 23rd, and March 25th. The successive photographs suggested an attack was being planned. Zelenskyy said in an interview, I quote, "We know that if they make images once, they are preparing. If they make images a second time, it's like a simulation. The third time, it means that in 1 or 2 days, they will attack." Zelenskyy maybe is the last person the United States needs help from. Still, Zelenskyy also may just as well be a first person if we take count from the proper end of the problem. As if help offered by President Zelenskyy accepted timely by the United States, the intelligence data shared, a 500 million worth AWACS would still be in place and intact, as well as the American military reputation, by the way. As well, friends of the United States are offering help and being rejected. Enemies are getting stronger.
Well, China is benefiting from a lot of this, and Russia is benefiting militarily because weapons that could have been given to Ukraine are not being given. They're being used in other places, that sort of thing. Economically, Russia is benefiting. So right now, China and Russia are probably benefiting from this war.
United States may need to reassess its relationship with NATO after the Iran war is finished, states Marco Rubio. Secretary of State said to Al Jazeera, allies' support during the Middle East conflict was very disappointing. NATO members denied to give an access to military bases and are not ready to unblock Hormuz Strait before ceasefire.
because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of that's going to have to be re-examined.
Donald Trump is already doing that. He's criticizing partners in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, saying they are cowards and that the alliance is a paper tiger. More, the Wall Street Journal, citing officials from the United States President's administration, has reported that Donald Trump has told his aides he is prepared to end the US military campaign against Iran, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains largely closed, and Washington will push its allies in Europe and the Gulf to take the lead in the reopening the strait, administration officials say. Well, while Donald Trump is focusing on Iran, Zelenskyy openly says it. Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine, in turn, has the key flaw. President of Ukraine told Axios Trump and his team want to end the war, but they are ready to pressure Ukraine by demanding territorial concessions to Russia. As the president of Ukraine notes, the latest talks between the Ukrainian delegation in Miami and Trump's special envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner yielded no results. Zelenskyy also notes that thanks to its armed forces, Ukraine still has something to respond with.
I do not believe we have a deadlock. Deadlock after which we all have to surrender, relax, let Russia surrender. We will not. Today, we are much stronger, honestly, than in the past 6 months. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, during online briefing with journalists.
European ministers arrive in Ukraine to mark the 4th anniversary of Bucha's liberation and the massacre that became one of the early symbols of the Russian aggression. The EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, leads the delegation, and the ministers will discuss what needs to be done to ensure accountability for war crimes committed during the war through a special tribunal, which still needs more political backing and funding to come into existence. Ukraine's foreign minister, Andriy Sybiha, drew a comparison with the Nuremberg trials against leaders of the defeated Nazi Germany, saying the new tribunal was needed to prevent such horrible crimes from repeating again in the future. Well, it seems to be it for today. I'm Henry Keane, and thank you so very much for your time and for your attention, for being with us when Ukraine. Feel that and appreciate that a lot. Please also consider leaving a comment, maybe a like, and maybe even a subscription to our channel. So obviously, to stay tuned to what tomorrow holds for all of us. We'll be there to keep you posted on everything that happens. UATV. Thank you. Goodbye.